Already you have discussed stress, human motivation, and interpersonal issues. We are done with stress, human motivation, and interpersonal issues. So social issues. Why social issues? So each time you open your study unit, each time you open your books, you need to ask yourself questions like, why do you have to study about social issues? What comes into your mind when you think of social issues? Then you continue studying. How does social issues relate to us as psychologists, student psychologists? Why does it matter that you should know about social issues? Those are the questions that you need to raise amongst your peers, yourself when studying. Then you continue. Social issues. Then here's an answer. Why do we study social issues? We are not living in isolation. We live with people and their issues. We live in the world where there are issues. Socially, as individuals, we are broad, we are holistic. I can use the term holistic. We are social beings, we are spiritual beings, we are emotional beings, we are also physical beings. We are social beings, spiritual beings, physical beings, and emotional beings. Hence, we cannot run away from social. We live with people, we talk, we communicate, we fight, there's a conflict, we are happy. The reason that you go to a psychologist as a patient and say I'm suffering from 1, 2, 3. Definitely, there's an aspect of social within your suffering because you don't live alone. You live with people. Someone is influenced something for it to happen. That is social issues. We cannot run away from social issues. You lose a job, it's social issues. You get a job, it's social issues. You get a check, it's social issues. You stay home, you're affected by social issues. So cannot run away from social issues. Media social issues. So social issue comprises of any form of a challenge that is posed by the environment. The key psychological issues that we face in the world is violence, discrimination, the development of poor communities, a place to stay, and preventive interventions. Those are the 5 key aspects that we're going to discuss today based on what? Social issues. Based on social issues, number 1, violence. We live in a world whereby we experience violence not just on daily basis, but within seconds. Violence, whether it's robbery, violence, whether it's abuse, violence, whether it's rape, violence, whether it's motorist fighting. We live in a violent world and we cannot avoid it. Instead, we can manage on how to deal with it. You can manage the consequences psychologically. As a psychologist, how can you manage violence psychologically? And can you deal with violence psychologically? Discrimination. Again, we are not living in isolation. Discrimination is due to happen at any time. And how can you deal with it? How can you manage it? How can you teach people not to discriminate one another? If they're discriminated, how can you teach people to manage discrimination? That's your role as a psychologist. Assisting people to cope with their surroundings. Assisting people to manage their surroundings. To make sure they're not harmed. Development of poor communities. The development of poor communities. Poor communities not only affect you physically, now that you don't eat proper food. However, they affect you also psychologically. You will find those clients. Clients who are poor, you will come across clients who are rich. You need to know how to apply psychology for a setting, worthy setting. A place to stay is also important. A place to stay is also important. If I come to you as a client, a patient living in a squatter camp, compared to a place who's living in a big house, compared to a place to live in a bridge. A place to stay has a huge impact on the client as well as you as a psychologist. Imagine a case whereby you are trying to advise a client on how to study pieces. The student comes to you and say, I can't concentrate and I'm writing my exams. It's been 2 weeks and the exam is next week. I need to focus. You try to design a study timetable for the client. Then you say, no, what you can do is that get your own space in your room, post pictures, get a table where you will study without anyone disturbing you. However, your setting is quarter camp. You are living in one room with the whole family. You see the challenge. Hence these factors, they include them. That each time as a psychologist or a therapist, when you do counseling, when you do psychological intervention, you consider the background of a person so that you can apply appropriate measures. A place to stay. So the place to stay is important. You are living in a situation whereby the psychologist suggests that you wake up in the morning and jog, but the environments are not the same. In some places, it's challenging to jog because you might be robbed. So it's better to jog around your yard. It's difficult to jog around the yard when you don't have a yard, but it's just the shack. So those are the things. That's why they say social issues. It's a key sensitive. It's a challenge that you experience in your profession. Again, you are looking for a job. You are done with your masters. You register out in HPCSA as a therapist. Now you are looking for a job. Yes, you have a choice to choose where you work. However, due to the circumstances, you might find a job in a place that you didn't expect, in a place that you didn't sign for. Not sign for because you sign. You choose in unexpected places. The surrounding might differ. You might go to a place where there's huge violence, huge discrimination, poor community. But however, you need to work, you need to make the means of income. You sign the contract to work there, meaning that's a new setting. What I like about psychology, it speaks to you as a person, it also speaks to the clients. It speaks to the world. Then you can apply psychology in context. Since they say PYC1502 is psychology in society, how to apply psychology in society. It is the society. Preventive measures. Preventive measures, now that you have studied violence, discrimination, the development of poor communities, as well as a place to stay, preventive measures. What can we do? What can you do what can be done to manage these things? How can be done to manage suffering? How can be done to deal with affecting the society? That is preventive measures. So that's one thing about the PYC 1501 and PYC 1502. They give you a challenge and the solution. They give you a challenge as well as a solution. So this is the solution. So let's break it down from violence. What I'm discussing right now is in your notes. Your study unit. In your study unit, this is just a summary to make things much easier for you and put some coloring so that I cannot bore you. Violence is number one. The key is violence. They say violence begins when one person fails to esteem the other person. What is violence? We know that violence in a layman's language. In a layman's language, violence, you think of beating, physical beating someone. That's how you think of violence. You physically beat someone, you assault someone physically, you stab someone. That's a layman's language. However, we as psychology students, this is how you need to define it. Violence begins when one person fails to esteem the other person, stop respecting the other person's dignity, and start to abuse him or her. So the key is when you violate someone's rights, remember we have rights We have right to live. We have right to walk on the street. We have right to speak. We have right to living the life to respect. So if someone violates the rights, meaning violence begins when one person fails to esteem the other person. You are depriving someone's right of acting up. Then you apply violence. You say you fail to esteem the other person. Intimidation, bringing down, stop respecting person's dignity and start abusing him or her. Then they break it down. What do you mean by abuse? What form of violence are we talking about here? Violence of material gain. That is number one. Violence of material gain is what? Mostly robbery, taking things by force. Domestic violence, which is most popular, which happens in a household. Again, as a psychologist, these are the cases that you normally experience. The cases that come to your doorstep. Someone who's been violence due to material gain, someone robbed you, took your phone, housebreaking. As a psychologist, you need to know these aspects. If a person comes and say, I've been robbed, and they took my you cannot say move on and buy another phone, because this is psychological, meaning you need a psychological intervention, because the robbery has created some anxiety, some fear, some guilt. At times you feel guilty that why did I hold my phone? What did I move in the streets? What did I wait a bit? What did I scream? Sexual violence. Now, like sexual violence, I can assure you that daily psychologists will get a case related to sexual violence on daily basis. State and collective violence. The state violence, you can relate the state violence with. We normally complain in relation to politics. Politics creates strikes. Inflation due to political instability creates what? Unemployment. Employment leads to people getting frustrated. Once they're frustrated, they vandalize. Some they rob others. Some they apply corruption. All of those things. Self-direct violence. Self-direct violence is suicide. Why do we include self-directed violence? Self-directed suicide not only affects the person who commits suicide, but those who are left behind, they're affected, because you're asking yourself questions. What did I do wrong? What I could have done better? Even the survivor needs counseling, because chances are he or she might do that again. These are the cases that you normally get. You will get as psychologists. Violence related, material gain related, domestic related, all of them are violence because they fail to esteem the other person's dignity. They bring you down. So he says, for us to understand violence in a broader perspective, let's look at the three main approaches to understanding violence. The three main approaches to understanding violence. 1, instinct or social biological approaches. 2, frustration and aggression approaches. 3, observational learning approach. Instinct, frustration, and observational. Instinct, and so they say, remember, instinct, something that you're born with. It's biological, it's inside you. When you say biological, no, when you say instinct, you know, not refer to mostly a physical aspect of thing, but you are born with instinct. For instance, if I shout at you, the instinct will say, don't shout at me. or you cry instead. You get hurt. That's how we are raised. If a gunshot, because you know how to relate the gunshot, you become scared. So it's something that you are born with. You are born with fear, you are born with happiness, you are born with joy. We know that when something is said, you cry. See violence as an inborn survival strategy. What do they mean by they see violence as an inborn survival strategy? They see violence as an inborn survival strategy. I say to you, if someone shouts at you and you feel like they shout, either is not necessary or is unfair, you what? You fight back. That's how we're born. You are defense. You use the defense mechanism. If someone tries to rob you, one thing that comes into your mind, I run away, I confront the person, because that's how you're born. The statement says you are born with violence, is in us, but you need to manage it. A simple example would be kids, babies. Try to. People are born with violence. I'm making an example in relation to the babies. Baby, it's try to take something out of the hand of the baby. Young ones, you try to take something out of the hand, they fight normally. They cry because they are born. Yes, they say you are born with violence. It's a nature. You don't learn certain aspects of violence. You are born to defend ourselves naturally. When you try to take something from a kid, they cry. They fight back. They don't want to let it go. That's why they say you are born with violence. Something that you are born. They see violence as an inborn survival strategy. In order to protect yourself, you fight back. Through violence, you are born with it. Yes, they say instinctively, social and biologically, you are born with it. Number two, frustration aggression approach. Frustration aggression approach is what? Explain violence as an outcome of frustration. Explain violence as an outcome of what? Frustration. When you're frustrated, what do? You're trying to study, you're trying to write an exam, network is giving you problems. Automatically, you get frustrated. Through your frustration, you do what? You act differently. Some people even break their laptops. Some, they make things worse. That is frustration. When you're frustrated, you tend to act aggressive towards something. Young people, you normally say, deal with your problems and come to me later. Deal with your problems and come to me later. Because once you're frustrated, you also tend to take that frustration towards people. Frustration, aggression. Explain violence as an outcome of frustration. Frustration first, then you become aggressive. I hope I'm clear. Then we have observational learning approach. Observational learning approach. They say, when violence, we learn violence through direct reinforcement, through modeling our behavior that we see on others. Learn violence through direct reinforcement, especially kids. They say kids learn what they live. When kids see you beating someone just to get away from something, just to protect yourself, they see it as something that is right because their cognitive capacity is not yet developed. When you do that, they see it as something that is right. They will do it as well. Then they say observational learning. They learn through seeing. In TV, you have parental guidance. We have age restrictions so that we monitor. They monitor what the kids' behavior, kids' exposure to certain things, because they learn through observation, they learn through imitation. Observational learning approach. Another example would be we go to a shop to buy some food, to a nearby restaurant to buy some food. We get there only to realize that someone is complaining to the manager that the food is not nice. Then the manager does what? Gives them their money as well as complimentary meal, just to say sorry. Gives them back their money as well as the complimentary meal. As bystanders who are watching that action, chances are that I will do the same if something I experience the same thing, because I can see that there's the reward. He or she complained and they gave him his money back as well as a complimentary meal, just to say sorry and thank you for service. We will do the same thing, because you know that when you stand up for yourself, then we'll get the respect you deserve. Through what? Observational learning approaches. We act violent in order to get what you want. That's what they are saying. Let's continue. Now we are done with violence as well as aspects of social issue. Then let's move to the next one. Discrimination. Discrimination. What is discrimination? Step number 1. What is discrimination? Discrimination is a negative behavior towards members of a particular group. It is usually based on stereotyping ideas about the group, which lead to prejudice against its members. So here you need to be able to differentiate between discrimination, prejudice, as well as stereotype. There are 3 different concepts. However, they fall under discrimination. They differ. Your discrimination, prejudice, and stereotype. Let's start with what? Discrimination. When you discriminate someone, they say you have a negative behavior towards members of a particular group. It's usually based on stereotypical ideas about the group, which leads to what? Prejudice against its members. Let's repeat it. Discrimination is a negative behavior, meaning you act. That discrimination you act is a negative behavior towards members of a particular group. An example would be calling people with names. Keifer, Makwerekwere, the others, those one. Meaning that is discrimination, negative behavior. They say it's a behavior because you say it or you act. By acting, perhaps avoiding them. Avoiding in a sense that they say there's a person who's not part of your group, and then you decide to sit next to you, and then you move away. That is acting. Or you say words, or you act physically. That is discrimination. They say it's usually based on the stereotype. So this form of discrimination, the negative behavior, is based on the stereotypic ideas about the group. The stereotypic ideas will be those one are like this, the Zulus are like this, the taxi drivers are like this, the Costa people are like this. Stereotypic ideas, and that stereotype ideas, it leads to what? It leads to prejudice against its members. Then the question is, what is prejudice? It starts from a negative behavior. That negative behavior is based on what? Stereotyping ideas. Normally, are things that we talk amongst each other. Costas are like this, white people are like this, Africans are like this. Based on what? Stereotype ideas. Stereotype ideas are what? Stereotype ideas about groups are based on ignorance and false and incomplete knowledge about it, jumping into conclusions about something. All taxi drivers are like this. Not all that generalization, but Zulus are like this. Because not all of them then is based on stereotyping. Don't date a Xhosa woman. She will eat you, man. we're told that is one of the stereotypic ideas we normally hear. So before we continue, let me hear stereotypic ideas from you. Let me involve you in a discussion. What are the stereotypic ideas do you know of? Guys, any stereotypic ideas that you can think of? Remember, this is your class. Let's engage. Any stereotypic ideas that you know of? You can raise up your hand here. Then you share any, so that I can assess if you understand the session. Any stereotypic idea that you grew up hearing? Shibu says, Zulu people are violent. That's another stereotypic idea, because a group of Zulu people once acted violent to you doesn't mean that all Zulu people are violent. Thanks for that. Another one, someone will tell you that certain groups are smelly. They don't bark because you came across certain individuals who don't bark. That doesn't mean that all of them don't bark. Guys, another one, no, not only Shibu. Any stereotypic idea that you have in your mind. Okay, another one from Shibu. Then I'll read the one from Chibani. We grew up knowing that white people have lots of money and they are rich. Yes, that we grew up most knowing that, particularly from our parents. There's a say that they use and say, someone who has money, someone who can employ others. They say he or she is a white person. We drive a nice car, even now, there's a slang that they use. You go to a car wash or in a nearby robots, a petrol attendants when driving a nice car say, Ingamla, meaning white person in slang, meaning that they are putting that exclamation that you are rich, you can manage, only white they can do that. Nice one, Shibu. Then Motibani says taxi drivers are rude. That's another stereotype, because you'll find gentle taxi drivers. Not all of them, they are rude. Thanks, guys. We can continue now. Those are stereotyping ideas, the discrimination. They also lead to violence. Thanks very much. Here's an interesting one from from Happiness. Happiness says, petty men are stingy. Petty men are stingy. That's an interesting one. I heard it several times. They even say, women don't date, but in it, bomb. Yeah, I think bomb. Don't date bomb. Don't date petty men. They either stingy or too close to their mother. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Happiness is popular. I can see she was laughing as well as mates, meaning they know it. I also know it. One popular, even though they say Zulu men are violent, but they would recommend that date Zulu men. It's strange. So share people know, no, Zulu men are so violent. However, date Zulu men. Tricky situation. They say petty men are not violent. They are most polite. However, they are stingy. We don't know what you want. Okay, guys, thank you. Yeah, yes, we do understand it. Let's go back to the slide. Thanks very much for your input. Okay. Then prejudice. Let's start afresh so that you can understand these terms. Discrimination is a negative behavior. Yeah, discrimination is a behavior towards members of a particular group. One, it's usually based on stereotypic ideas. We did discuss the stereotypic ideas, which are stereotypic ideas about the group are based on ignorance, false, incomplete knowledge about it. Which leads to what? Which leads to prejudice against the member. Then what is prejudice now? Prejudice is a specific form of an attitude that is negative and is characterized by hatefulness, and irrational beliefs. Prejudice is much deeper. Prejudice is a specific form of an attitude that is negative. It's characterized by hatefulness and irrational belief. This one is deep, in a sense that either you are taught that this group of people are like this, then you put it in your mind. You grew up knowing that. Then you start to have an attitude towards a certain group of people. For instance, an example would be you dated a petty man before, and you experience this stinginess, like they said. You dated as a woman, then you experience perhaps violence. So as you move on, as soon as someone proposes you, whether in a taxi, whether in a plane, whether you're walking the street, the normal guys propose. As soon as you hear that the person speaks steady, so you say no, you move away quick, you run away. Because you don't want to associate with yourself with a petty man again, a Zulu man again, because you know that it has been said or you experience it. Meaning you tend to develop an attitude towards them, even hatefulness and irrational belief. You don't want anything to do with them. You see? So you start from stereotype. Stereotype leads to negative behavior. Negative behavior goes along with a negative attitude, which is prejudice. They say stereotype and prejudice are belief system. Stereotype and prejudice are belief system. It's not only what you heard, but it's a belief system. It's something that you hear and put it in your mind and apply it. Stereotype and prejudice belief system, discrimination. So you as an aspiring psychologist as well, when the clients enter into your practice, whether they enter individual or the group, you make cognizance of discrimination. You make cognizance of what? Of they say. You need to know them. That's why when you study psychology, there's a module which is compulsory from the first level. You do African language. There are modules called community psychology. Under those modules, you'll find topics like African psychology, what you will do sociology, to make sure that you know about in the different societies, you know about the different societal background, you know about different behaviors, particularly in South Africa. South Africa is a multi-diverse society. It's a multi-diverse society. We have 11 official language, multiracial. Hence, we have African, what do you call it, that module? African language. I'm not sure the full phrase. African first group, it's a must that you study it. Make sure that when you interact with the clients, you have a broader knowledge of Africa as a whole, to avoid discriminating, because you might find yourself as well as a therapist discriminating the clients because your knowledge is narrow. We are forced to study broader in order to know this stereotype. Like the stereotype, like the ladies, most white people also know it. Posters are like this, they know it. Zulus are like this, they know it. Because it's something that they study, they make example of it. Moving on, the development of poor communities. Poverty is not simply about being deprived of necessities such as food. The way you know it, we know that poverty is related to lacking basics. The basic mostly is food. So you as a aspiring psychologist therapist, from now on, you should know that psychology, poverty is not just about food. Poverty is not simply about being deprived of necessities such as food, medicine, clothing, but also about living situation of hopelessness. Living situation of hopelessness, uncertainty about the future, and alienation from mainstream society. Because you might find a person having everything physically, by physically money, you have clothing, you have medicine. However, you don't have hope about the future. People who commit suicide are not only people who lack food, who lack basics, who lack medical aid, who lack shelter. Have we heard of someone living in the street and commit suicide? Nobody knows. To show that poverty is not just about food, medicine, but people who commit suicide are people who have shelter most of the time. People who have certain means. However, due to live in hopelessness, it starts from the inside. Hopelessness, giving up on the future, it has a huge impact on people's psychological being. So the development of poor community is not just about food, medical aid, shelter, but your psychological well-being. That's why some people will say you have poverty mentality. You have what? Poverty mentality, meaning you have poverty mentality, meaning psychologically you are hopeless. You think poorly of yourself. You don't see joy, you don't see success in yourself. You have poverty mentality. Once you have poverty mentality, that's the death of you, that's the end of you. It's psychologically. Moving on. A place to stay. Interesting one, a place to stay. They say the environment is a physical place. The environment is an extension of the self. The environment is a social system. What do they mean by that? An environment is a physical place. Environment is a physical. Environment is extension of the self. An environment is a social system. A physical place is something that is tangible. An example would be when you look for a job or when you want to relocate. You want to relocate, you are staying somewhere. Now that you want to locate and get a new place, what do you consider? You check crime rate in that place. Is the place close to the shacks? Is up to you. Is the place close to the mall? How far is the place? The school setting, because I need to find the school for my kids. Is the environment a physical place? Do you like the place? Do you want a place near to the ocean? Do you like nature? Quietness. You understand the environment as a physical place. Again, when you apply for a job, you are not just excited by you getting a job, but you check the physical place. I don't want to work because of 1, 2, 3. I would like to work, so it's up to your setting. So environment is an extension of part of your physical place. Then the same environment is the extension of the self. Extension of the self in terms, you will find people saying, I love staying in Mpumalanga because I feel a sense of belonging there. Perhaps you like the people there, you like the surroundings. It works for you. People will tell you that I prefer staying in Mpumalanga. I prefer staying in Cape Town. I prefer Joburg. Joburg works for me. Normally when I go to Joburg, I get a call and I get a job. It's something that is unexplainable, but there's an extension between you and the self. Workplace. You'll find people perhaps working for a certain organization. Then it happens that you lose your job. Perhaps they don't extend your contract. However, get another employment. They treat you well, things are nice there, but your heart is at the former employer. Even though they treat you well, but your heart is at the because the environment is an extension of the self. The company there was much better than your current employer. The environment acts as an extension of yourself. You prefer certain things. You're interested in certain things due to that environment. Then, environment is a social system. Social system, like I said, you are not living in isolation. You live with people. You live to communicate. You live to interact. The surroundings influence each other. They say in order for us to understand the environment as a social system, we need to know privacy, personal space, territoriality, as well as crowding. Privacy, personal space, territoriality, and what else? Crowding. Privacy and personal space. What's the difference between the two? Privacy, and personal space. What's your understanding of the two terms, privacy and personal space? That's what's your understanding of the two terms, privacy and personal space? What do you make of the two concepts? Can you differentiate the two, privacy and personal space? What's the difference between the two? When you say you need privacy, someone's come and say, no, I need my personal space. What's the difference between the two? There's a difference, a huge difference. Privacy, when someone says privacy, they say, normally it's a desire to be alone. It's not just a desire to be alone. Privacy is not just a desire to be alone, but it's a desire for personal information. For instance, you need privacy in your phone. You put password. That is privacy. You're trying to make sure that people, they don't get information, certain information. You buy a car, you decide to keep quiet. That's your privacy. You don't want to tell anyone. Meaning you're controlling what others know about you. You control what others need to know about you, or what others don't need to know about you. That is privacy. You have your boyfriend, then you decide no one should know about our relationship. That is what? That is privacy. You decide to keep quiet about your relationship status. It's your own privacy. You can control what's your privacy. It's in your hands. The boundaries between you and other people. Then the personal space. Personal space differ. Personal space is controlling people who are in contact with you. They say the amount of space we need between ourselves and other people. I'm standing in a taxi rank, then the person stands close to me. I decide to move away. In a social gathering event, in a class setting, in a classroom setting, you go there, you'll find the lecturer, you choose the space where you'd like to sit. Then the next person will come and choose another corner. The third person chooses a corner in order to avoid distraction. That's a personal space. Some people will tell you that I don't like crowd stuff. I don't like a crowd. The crowd differs as well. A crowd, okay, a crowd could be 2 people in your case. Someone will say a crowd is 10 people. You'll find some people knowing how to talk, knowing how to introverts. You'll find extroverts. Meaning, even the crowding space will differ. 10 is a crowd, a crowd is 50 people. So that is crowding. And the amount of space you create in relation to others. Then you have what? Territoriality. Territoriality refers to a place we select that we demarcate as our own. We are territorial, like animals. Animals are territorial. For instance, lions choose to sit on top of the rocks away from other animals. And if you dare come close to their territory, you are dead. Even to the other animals, they fight for territory. They are territorial. Again, in our household, you'll find that there's a chair where only the husband sits there, the head of the house, or the wife prefers to sit in this chair and no one should sit next to it. The kids know, even the neighbors. the visitors, I mean, if you come and pay visits and choose a chair, you say, please sit in that chair. You're not supposed to sit. So we are territorial. A place to stay is all about privacy. You choose a place to stay due to privacy, particularly celebrities, famous people. They choose to live privately to avoid being influenced by the society. That is private, meaning they can control it. Then personal space is a challenge. At times you cannot control it because you live with people. When you want to go to a nearby clinic, you'll find a crowd. The jobs that you choose, you cannot control a crowd. As soon as we say you like to become a psychologist, that doesn't guarantee you that you only sit with one client. Some come in family, their family counseling session, their group counseling session. The company might hire you, they say, we are experiencing conflict in our place. Can you please come to talk to our employees? That's a crowd, it's more than even 20 people at times. Meaning you cannot control personal space unless you move nowadays again, but it's difficult to control this compared to private. But your privacy you can control. Territorial and crowding. Then the last one, preventive measures, preventive intervention. They say research indicates that most emotional and behavioral problems have their origins in environments characterized by poverty and violence. Research indicates that most emotional and behavioral problems have their origins. That's true. When the clients come to you to explain his or her issue, definitely there's origin from the environment. The origin from the environment could be poverty, could be violence. Divorce. Why do you divorce? It could be in some form of violence. It could be some form of poverty. Remember, we said poverty is not only about lacking food, lacking medication, lacking financial. Poverty could be a state of mind, living hopelessness in your divorce. You don't see hope. You don't see change. You have lost hope in certain things. Then decide to divorce. Divorce is an emotional issue, a behavioral, because we act towards it, influenced by what the origin. The origin could be the two. So any emotional challenge, any emotional barrier, any behavioral barrier is influenced by mostly these aspects. Poverty can be influenced by what? Unemployment. You lost a job. It which leads to poverty. They say preventive measures are necessary to counter these effects. Preventive measures are necessary. At times, it's even difficult to afford a psychologist. At times, not just to afford it, a therapist or social work. You don't have them in your around setting. You have them, but they attend to too much issues. Imagine Soweto is more than 500,000 households. They'll tell you that more than millions. Biggest township. One of the biggest townships in South Africa, if not something. They'll tell you that. Imagine if each and every household have a problem. Do you think they'll manage to go to a psychologist in a nearby clinic? No. Some they afford it, but it's paid because you need to make a booking. The solution now is what? Preventive measures. You need to come up with preventive measures that are necessary to counter these effects in your community. For instance, in your community, when you experience violence, robbery, there are organizational forums like CPF, Crime Prevention Forum, that people organize in order to deal with crime. In the morning, they wake up to make sure that they minimize crime. At night, they do the same. Crime Prevention Forum. Those are preventive measures to deal with violence in their community. They are the first contact because police are busy. Sometimes they tell you that there are no vans. Then you attend to many cases. Sometimes they're on strike. You need preventive measures, people who are on standby to deal with such issues. Issues like, again, poverty in terms of physical physical aspects of poverty. You'll find that some kids, they don't have parents. They are orphans. People don't get. You'll find in some communities, they organize what? The soup kitchen feeding scheme. Now and again, perhaps once a day, they come and provide food for those who are in need. So you don't need government to do that. You don't need the state to do that. But preventive measures, the little that you can do, you provide it. Those are the example of preventive measures that not everything needs to come from the government or the states, but to us as a community, social issues, you can manage them. Us as a society, we can at least manage some aspects. So that's it with regard to social issues. Remember, I said to you, we'll discuss social issues. Once you are done with social issues, we'll do what? Groups. So any question regarding social issues before we move on? Any question regarding social issues? If you understand it, you don't have a question, there's a reaction here. You just say sharp, say, I do understand, then I can move on. Or you can say hearts, or you clap hands, then I know that you are clear. I can move on. No question in relation to social, then move to group. Here's the reaction. The nature of group functioning, or you can say group psychology. We tried to discuss this chapter the last time we met, but due to networking. So I'll repeat it either way to make sure that you master it. The nature of group functioning. Again, before you start, you ask yourself, why do we have to study about groups? Why do you have to study about groups? Is there need to study about groups because the psychology will deal with individuals? Why do we have to study about groups? So groups are important. Like I've said, we are not living alone. We don't live in isolation. We live with people. Due to this diversity, due to this grouping, we experience what conflict. We influence one another. So for us to master living, for us to avoid conflict, we as a psychologist, student psychologists, we need to know about the nature of group. Group is not group because of people, but it's group because of the elements within people, the effect within people who differ as individuals. For us to understand group functioning, we need to be able to differentiate between attributes of human groups, differentiation of human groups, the interaction of groups. Attributes of groups. You take your dictionary or you break down the concept or you check for a synonym. What do you mean by the attributes of human groups? The attribute could be what makes a group, what is included within the group, what elements are within the group. You differentiation of groups. How do they differ? How do the groups differ? Then interaction. Without interaction, there are no groupings. Without interaction, we cannot move on. We live because of the interaction. We need to interact in order for group to make sense. So we'll start by the characteristics of the group. The characteristics of the group are divided into two, with the group structure and the group process. The group structure and the group process. Group structure refers to its elements and the way in which these are organized. Group structure refers to its elements and the way in which these are organized in a circular way, meaning the circular relationship between the group and its elements is also event in relationship among the elements. What elements are they talking about here? Currently, I'm conducting a class to a group of what? Psychology students. Psychology students doing what? PYC 1502. That's your module, PYC 1502. What makes you common? It's the elements that you share. You share a module, you share a tutor, you share a lecture, you share content. You share even your goals, your aspiration. Most of you are doing psychology, so you like to become psychologists. If not, you perhaps you like to become an HR. You're interested in the module. You share the same elements. They say the group structure refer to its elements. Elements mostly is what is common, what you share. The way in which they are organized, how are the groups organized? You come to UNISA to register, you register online. Already, you have a group of students who are doing the similar module. That's your characteristics. That's how you are grouped. That's your group structure. That's what you stand for. You want to start, you pass your psychology module. The circular relationship between a group and its elements is also the evidence in a relationship amongst the elements. They said there's a relationship amongst the elements. Relationship number 1, psychology. Relationship number 2, PYC1502. Another element is you have a same tutor. Another element will be your goals might differ. They say relationship amongst elements. Not only you share the module, but you share more than just a module. Group process. Group process refers to the way in which the elements of the group interact and how these elements evolve over time. Group process refers to the way in which the elements of the group interact and how these interaction evolve over time. We are individuals. We psychologically we develop. We transform psychologically, we transform physically, we transform socially and spiritually. On daily basis, we learn new things. Those things, they influence not only you as a person, but you influence the people around you. When you learn something new, you discuss with other people. If you don't discuss it, we can see a change in you. Want to see a change in you, chances are it will influence our behaviors as well. And they say it's a group process. A typical example would be when I do this presentation, when I give you a class, I'll try to make sure that I involve you. I try to make sure that I come up with different ideas. I try to make sure that I switch my energy from 0 to 100. At times I lower it down, depends on what I'm discussing. I try to make sure that I ask questions. I refer to you, not just the students, but with your names. When you answer, I make sure that I refer to you in the original name, the name that I see on the MC Teams. Why do I do that? It's a form of a group process. They say group process refers to the way in which the elements of the group interact and how this interaction overlap over time. Like now I know that the Tetel normally attend classes. Now again the Saro normally attend classes. I know Kebetwi, he attend classes now and again. You see, you build a relationship over time. You need to interact over time. It's a group process. Group process refers to the way in which the elements of the group interact and how these elements evolve over time. That's a group characteristics. The more you know each other, the more you become comfortable amongst each. The more you know each other, the more you know Sezwane much better. The more I know my students much better. It's a group process. Then the attributes. We have attribute of human group. Attribute of human groups. This one is much broader. What makes a group? Here we're dealing with the characteristics of the group, which are 2. Here are the key of what makes the group. Structure of the group and the group process. Group structure, group process. In broader terms, here it is structure of human groups and processes. Human membership. Human membership. Each and every group that you're part of, there's a membership. A membership, you're not referring to you coming and signing a form or contract that you are the real member of this group. However, a membership, because you share things that are similar. You share same interests. You want to achieve something that is similar. That is human membership. As psychology students, you have the same goals. That's a membership. You know that each and every on Saturdays, specific Saturdays, you go online and attend Mr. Zwane's classes. That's a form of membership. No one is forcing you to do that. but it's recommended to do that in order to what? To make sure that you pass your exam. Meaning, me and you have a contract, a psychological contract. We have a membership that you need to wake up and attend the classes. Same applies to me. I know that every morning, Saturday, I need to make sure that I open my laptop, connect to Teams, so that I can present the classes to you. That is the membership. It's psychological, not something that is written down. Group norms. Then the group norm, each and every group has their rules and the way of doing things. For instance, the groups for this session is make sure that you close the mic. Make sure that you close your video. Those are the norms, something that we agree based on. Mute your mic so that you won't be disturbed. Because we find people joining the class, silent, there's the background noise. Some join the class with a video. The video eats too much data, which is meaning it's unnecessary. And as I was teaching my colleagues, I was teaching my colleagues, it's much easier to assume that all of us, all of us need to see each other on Facebook. Then you must open the video, but no. So each and every group, it's norms. When you open your study groups with other students, you have your own rules. When you say 8 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock. That's your rule. When you say don't eating the study session, that's not eating. You don't need to eat. When you say each person must participate, must involve themselves, you must involve. Those are your group norms, the rules, the standard to share amongst each other. You raise up your hand when you want to talk, that's the group norms. Then you have what? Group cohesion. Group cohesion, which determines what the strength of the group. Determine the strength of the group. The strength, we are not referring to physical strength, that you need to be tough in order to be part of the group. You need to beat up people. No, we are not talking about that strength, but the strength in terms of your connection. If someone from outside comes to your group, perhaps and criticize one person, you need to stand up for that person. That characterizes what? Characterizes the group, the bond that you have. Like family members will tell you that we need to develop unity within the family. No other person should make us fight. We need to develop a group cohesion. Group cohesion is a strength within the group. Then you have a social metric structure. The social metric structure. Let me open my notes and check it. The social metric structure. Social metric structure under group. I'm opening my notes. I want to make sure that I give you something that is correct. So in summary, multiple choice questions as well. They might say to you, a group structure comprises of 4 aspects. Choose the most incorrect aspects. The group structure includes 4 aspects. Choose the most incorrect aspects. You see you have 4 options: membership, group norm, group cohesion, and social metric. Then they add something like group polarization. They say choose the one that is incorrect. So know these things by heart. They say choose the most incorrect. They give you these 4 options and add group polarization. That's how we create we come up with multiple choice questions. We play around it. You need to know that structure by structure of human membership, group norm, group cohesion, and social metric. By process, we have interaction, goals, group polarization, group conflict, groupthink, as well as patterns of leadership and fellowship. Learn to differentiate between the two. Aspects under structure and aspects under the process. Now we are discussing what social metric. Social metric structure is say group members are attributes of human group. structures of human group, human membership. That's the relationship you have within your group, meaning that it's not a membership that you sign down. However, it's a membership that you agree based on. You wake up on Saturday to attend Zone's class. That's a membership that you have. Group norms are rules that you set within a group. Group cohesion is a strength that you have within the group. I said strength is not about physical strength, but there's the unity you have within a group. And then we have social metrics. Social metric structure is determined by, even though you are part of the group, that doesn't mean that you like everyone in the group. It's impossible to like everyone in the group. You meet because you want to achieve the similar goal. However, you have your own preferences over other individuals. That's a social metric structure. Moving on to the process of human group. Process of human group is influenced by interaction amongst the members. There's no group without interaction. Communication makes a group. Having common goals makes a group. Group conflicts, you cannot avoid what? Group conflict. Group conflict is true. It's due to happen because you differ as individuals. That is group conflict. Patterns of leadership. Within a group, there should be a leader and their followers. Not that you undermine one another, but within a group, there are leaders as well as followers. Then what is group polarization and what is groupthink? Group polarization, they say, interaction among group members and the fact that they share common goals have a moderate effect on personal views that individuals of group members have. Then what's group polarization? Group polarization occurs when existing individuals' opinion, view, individual, and position become more extreme during group discussion. Like we say, within a group, we cannot like one another. If you don't like one another, there are disagreements now and again. You have opinions based on one another. You have opinions based on the views. You'll find that when you do a group discussion, suddenly their views, opinion, ideas about the topic that are extremely. Let's say you are discussing currently, suddenly the topic moves to what? Gay issue. We have different interpretations in relation to gay issue. Then it starts, the conversation is hyped up. Hence, extreme views within a conversation. That's why they talk about group polarization. Either you disagree on something, then it creates an issue, or you agree on something interesting. That is group polarization. Then there's what you call a groupthink. Groupthink. If the conflict can threaten a group existence, if the conflict can threaten the group existence, the other side of the coin is equally dangerous. It starts from conflict. If conflict can create harm within the group, same applies to it that leads to conflict. They say in groups that are highly cohesive, group members may become overly aligned to a group goals. Conflict is unavoidable. What determines the group strength? They say group cohesion. Within the group cohesion, there's groupthink. Groupthink is when you fight among the group, when there are disagreements within the group. You focus on what? On the end goal. The end goal is to pass the module PYC1502. That's a groupthink. You focus on, if there are challenges within the group, you focus on one goal. One goal is to achieve your goal. Achieving your goal, regardless of the situation, that is what groupthink. Moving on, differentiation of groups. We have social categorization, social stereotyping, and social identity. How to differentiate the groups. Social categorization, a group is formed when a number of individuals are seen to be similar in some respect, but also differ from others with regard to matter in question. You as a psychology students, what makes you similar? That you are doing the similar module, PYC 1502. Some they are not doing, some you are also doing PYC 1501. Some of you they intend to become psychologists, some you intend to become what? Social workers. That's how it differs. They say a group is formed when a number of individuals are seen as similar. However, in some regard, there are things that differ. Yes, we see ourselves as an in-group, we see the out-group, which is us and them. We are part of one group, however, there's in and out. It depends. The in-groups could be, let's say you have a group. One of the groups are those who are talkative. There are those who are quiet. There are those who are working within the group. Some of them, they are not working. We have older people and young ones. So in this group, some they see themselves as an us, some they see themselves as them. Like I said, you are not living in isolation. We differ in some regards. We are not the same. Whether you want to achieve the similar things, when you want to achieve the similar goals, still they will be in group and those ones. The end will gossip. Some say, hey, that one talk too much. He or she annoys me because you talk too much, because you see yourself as an in-group and others, them and others, which is influenced by what? Similarities and differences that you possess. Similarities and differences that you possess. Social stereotype. We did discuss stereotype under social issues. Social stereotype is simply a tendency of jumping into impression of what other people are like, jumping into conclusion on what other people are like. Stereotypes are belief and expectations about people. We discussed it, I won't break it down any further. Stereotypes are belief and expectations about other people. They are like this. This tribe is like this. The kind of expectation can be either positive or negative. So when you view the stereotypes, we explained some of the stereotype and we laughed about some other example that you've given me. There are those that are positive, there are those that are negative. Not all the stereotypes are negative. Some they are annoying, they create prejudice. Some they are positive, just to laugh. Last one, social identity. Social identity is social identity theory suggests that individual self-concept has two components, that is personal identity and social identity. Individual self-concept. Self-concept is how you see yourself. How do you see yourself as Chibu? That is your self-concept. When you go to interview, say, tell us about yourself. Then you start explaining, I'm like this, I'm a friendly person, I possess this qualification, meaning that's your self-concept. That's how you see yourself. They say how you see yourself is based on two aspects. Personal identity, that's who you are, the inner you. That's your personality, that's how you see yourself mostly internally. Then the social identity is influenced by how you see yourself in relation to others and how others see you. When you grow up or in any given moment, people will tell you, you are like this, that's you, that's who you are. It's either you accept it or not accept it. That's what makes your social identity, how people see yourself, how people see you, influence your social identity. So this is internally how you see yourself. Social is influenced by other people. Then you make conclusions about your personality as well. Then you have what? The last slide, interaction of groups. Interaction of groups is based on intergroups relation, individual level explanation, interpersonal, positional, ideological. Let's start with individual. Individual says, these are explanations that try to explain the nature of the intergroup relation in terms of individual dynamics and personal factors. We can understand groups in terms of individual dynamics. Like I've said, we differ. There are individual dynamics and personality factors. Personality factor influences how you behave towards others, how you behave towards yourself. Individual dynamics seem to differ, may lead to group conflicts, or may lead to harmony. It depends. But we have group dynamics as well as personality factors that influence the way the group is run. That is individual level explanation. So here, if you find that you find it challenging to understand the individual explanation, you highlight the keywords. Keywords here, personal factor and individual factor, you highlight them in your notes. Individual, personal factor, you highlight them. Same applies to interpersonal. When you find it hard to understand, the key is interaction. Interpersonal has to do with interaction, how you relate in the group. So this is a summary, just they use it different ways. You can see it's a repetition. Positional level explanation. The theory of this category deals with group type interaction. How you relate to one another. How you relate to one another is based on what? You have leadership, you have followers, there are those who like, there are those who don't like. You cannot avoid that. It's true to happen. Lastly, say ideological level explanation. Explanation in this category explain the general belief system in the society. Without the group, we have your own beliefs that you bring within the group. You meet new people within a group, they have their own beliefs. So it's true to happen. Explanation in this category explain the general belief system within the society that you bring inside the group. In closing, like we did in under societal issues, that I said to you, one thing nice about psychology, they give you problems. In the end, they give you solutions on how to manage this. Same applies to groups. This is how to manage groups. How to minimize conflicts. Number one, they say, create social norms. A certain group standard influenced by commonality, create social norms. When you start a group, have rules, have norms, have routine on how to do things. They say a certain group standard influenced by commonality. Maintain equality status. Equal status of the member of different group. Maintain equal status of the members. Know about one another. Be aware of the differences within the group, so that you can avoid conflict. Equal status of the member. Within a group, you need to be equal. Even though you have different personality, even though there's a leader, but to treat each other equally. Maintain interpersonal contact. Maintain the perception between in groups and out group. Within the group, there are in group and out group. Those who see the same as them and us. However, it needs to be maintained, because you acknowledge the differences. You need to be maintained in order for the group to survive. Maintain cooperative activities. Is maintained by setting goals, common interests and values. As soon as you start a group, you state the common goals, you state the common interests, the values. They need to be shared so that you know about one another in order to increase the group strength, group cooperation. Develop a multicultural ethos and awareness that individuals and groups differ. You'll see at crash, schools, at workplace, reception, they will put different cultures, pictures of different cultural backgrounds to make you aware that we acknowledge the differences. We make you aware that you don't racially discriminate in this institution. They say put multicultural ethos. You can put them in words by writing certain words in a workplace or a school, or you put different pictures so that even the learners can see that why are they wearing different type of food. You have to have heritage. Heritage is to preserve our culture. Heritage is to develop multicultural ethos. It's a reminder that we are unique, we are different. Lastly, they say develop a critical consciousness of patterns. Develop a critical consciousness of oppressed person. They say cooperation, ways to deal with oppressive pattern. Number one, accept the differences. Want to accept the differences, it will be much easier to critically it will be much easier to develop a critical consciousness of oppressive without knowing other people's cultures. How can you apply intervention? If you are clueless about other people's cultures, how can you manage groups? Ways to deal with oppressive patterns. It's based on your knowledge. You need to know about different cultures, different backgrounds. Okay, guys. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm done for today. We have discussed 2 chapters. When we meet again, we'll continue from self, psychological programs, science, as well as psychology of work. Thanks very much. We are done for now.